There are no women on Forbes' 50 highest paid athletes list. Shocking. In 2017, women in sport were earning an average of only 1% of what men made. But as big names like Alona Mayer, Caitlin Clark, and Simone Biles bring more attention to women's sport, is the gap getting smaller? Why do women make so much less in the sports industry anyway? And how has this been happening for so long? Before we jump into all that, we have to talk about how athletes get paid, because it's not like an hourly rate. Major organizations like the NBA, MLB, and NFL pay salaries to their players that sometimes climb all the way into the triple-digit millions. For example, LeBron James collected $48.7 million in salary for the 24-25 season, making him the NBA's highest paid player for the 11th year in a row. But with LeBron being LeBron, he also gets paid more than your average guy, and the overall average salary in the NBA is around $11.9 million. Since 1995, the NBA's rookie wage scale has been used to dictate the salaries for new players. For the 24-25 season, the number one overall pick was projected to earn around $10.5 million a year, and the 30th on the draft around $2 million a year. Obviously, this salary can change throughout seasons and contracts, and is decided on a few factors such as performance, popularity, and gender. Caitlin Clark, who was just named Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year, was the center of debate around the gender pay gap in the sport when it was revealed that her starting salary was around $338,000 over 4 years. Caitlin had just come off a record-breaking year when she was selected first in the WNBA draft in April. It sounds like okay money until you realize Victor Wembanyama, last year's top NBA draft pick, signed a $55 million contract. $55 million! The disparity between the contracts drew a heavy amount of scrutiny, with even President Joe Biden chiming in. Right now, we're seeing that even if you're the best, women are not paid their fair share, he said. It's time that we give our daughters the same opportunities as our sons and ensure women are paid what they deserve. How the heck does somebody as good as Caitlin Clark end up with so much less than her male counterparts? According to journalist Marie Solé, the long-standing disparity between the men's and women's teams has to do with the league's finances. The pot of money for players' salaries is based on a percentage of revenue. While the NBA generates annual revenue of about $10 billion, the WNBA pulls in about $200 million a year, and the men get a larger percentage of their league's revenue than the women do. But Caitlin's a star. Her jersey broke Fanatics' draft night record for any draft pick in any sport. She also drew millions more viewers to ESPN's coverage of the draft, and her teams have seen a spike in ticket sales to WNBA games. Luckily for Caitlin, there is another, arguably more important, revenue stream for athletes: endorsement deals. That's right, we all remember classic sports star endorsements like this.
Get this weak stock out of here. I'm hungry for the brew garden.
Athlete endorsements have been going on since the start of the 20th century. Back in the day, it was as simple as a popular baseball player saying they love a local product. But over time, the practice grew, and now mega brands like Pepsi, Nike, Google, WhatsApp, and more have all paid big money to sports stars. It's common practice, and yes, I know I can't get through all of this without mentioning shoes. Yes, they also all make shoes. There's heaps of deals with shoes. There is so much stuff about the shoes, we don't have time for it. There's a movie about the shoes. Watch that. Alright, Giannis Antetokounmpo, you know, the guy with the mega huge hands. He earned around $65 million this year from endorsements with Nike, WhatsApp, Google, and Hugo Boss. Caitlin Clark did make it onto the highest paid female athletes list for 2024, coming in at number 10 and earning around $11.1 million from deals with Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, and Panini. Her most valuable endorsement deal is an 8-year agreement with Nike, which is said to be worth more than $3 million a year. But deals like this aren't just given out to everyone. US rugby star Alona Mayer is the most followed rugby player on the planet. She recently signed a 3-month contract with Premiership women's rugby side Bristol Bears and is over in the UK right now training. Bears head coach David Ward said, "Her profile as an athlete to inspire the next generation aligns exactly with ours as a club, and we can only applaud the work she has and will do for the women's game." Yay! So Alona's matchless profile is helping bring attention to women's rugby. She's bringing in heaps of viewers, and she's a really bloody good player. So she must be making heaps, right? Wrong. Alona revealed that she only started her massively popular TikTok account to reach a level of financial stability that allowed her to play sport. She said, "Rugby is my thing, but I've had to create this whole other thing around me. Being on the pitch is amazing, But as a female athlete, as a female rugby player, I have to do 10 times as much off the field. I can't just play the sport I love. I'm not going to make millions of dollars playing rugby. I'm not even going to make 6 figures playing rugby. That's the sad truth. I'm not going to be like a men's player. I can't put all my focus here. I have to put it into everything else as well, and somehow that's translated into being the biggest star in rugby because of my personality. Can you think of any male athletes who had to become famous in order to play a sport? I personally can't, other than like maybe the Paul brothers and some other sort of influencer boxers. But I can think of more than a few male sports stars who did horrible things and then went straight back onto the court/field/ring. It's one of the many double standards women face in the sports world. Female players had to not only be exceptional athletes, but oftentimes they have to take on the responsibility of promoting the sport itself. If we refer back to Marie Solé and consider that the more people watch a sport, the more money the sport has to pay athletes, female players need to bring in more fans themselves just to get a glimpse of a good pay. But what about players who aren't big names or play in big leagues? What about solo sports or the Olympics? Well, there is another very important income stream that some of the biggest earners in the world rely on: prize money. Prize money is a simple enough concept. You win, you get prize money, or I mean, like, it really should be that simple. In 2023, the FIFA Women's World Cup awarded $150 million in prize money, a 300% increase over 2019, but still only about a third of the $440 million that the men got in Qatar 2022. One of the most famous stories of prize money pay disparity was all the way back in 1972. Billie Jean King won the US Open, but only earned $10,000 compared to the men's champion, who pocketed $25,000. She refused to play the next year if the prize money was not equal, and in 1973, the US Open became the first major sporting event to pay men and women equal prize money. Prize money is a big earning factor for female athletes. In fact, this year's highest paid female athlete, tennis star Coco Gauff, made $9.4 million from prize money in 2024. 6 out of the top 15 highest paid female athletes made over $5 million from prize money, but endorsements remain king. Coco's overall earnings were around $30.4 million, with around 2/3 of that coming from endorsement deals. She's only the third woman in sports to earn more than $30 million in a given year, after Serena Williams and Naomi Osaka, both tennis players, by the way. Actually, 9 out of the top 15 female earners this year are all tennis players. Pop off, tennis! But when we glance over to the list of top-paid male athletes, Cristiano Ronaldo made $260 million this year, and Devin Booker, who literally comes in at 50, so on this list he's technically last, he still made more than Coco. He raked in a whopping $45.2 million for 2024. When it comes to the Olympics, it's a little different. Different countries offer different monetary amounts or other prizes like an apartment for medal winners, and funding for sport differs from country to country. So it is difficult to put an exact number on Olympic overall earnings, but in this area, endorsements are the name of the game too. Simone Biles was this year's 9th highest earner, making a total of around $11.1 million, with $11 million of that being through endorsement deals. Now, Simone Biles is the most decorated gymnast in the history of the sport. She has 5 moves named after her. They even had to adjust the rules because she was too good and her moves were too difficult. And yeah, she made like $30 million less than Devin Booker. Like, okay. The Professional Squash Association awarded $500,000 in prize money to each gender, but actually, the 2023 PSA Women's World Championship had a larger prize pool for the women than for the men, for the first time in the sport's history. Women's sports are currently experiencing an unprecedented surge in attention. The WNBA aired prime time for the 2nd consecutive year, and women's sports media coverage has tripled since 2019. That's all awesome news, but despite the many gains, there's still huge challenges faced by female athletes. Fewer opportunities, massive pay gaps, fewer sponsorships, less airtime, and even unequal playing conditions. But what can we do about it? Honestly, just watch women's sports. Or just take them seriously enough as athletes and as people that when they do speak up about inequalities, changes actually happen. Like in 1972. I don't think that it's a coincidence that the first sport to equalize prize money now has most of the top earning female athletes. Something to think about.